Good afternoon and welcome to Brown Skin, the clear and 1 second, I can hear you real clear. Let me do the intro because we're live. Afternoon and welcome to Brown Skin, the clear and 1 second, I can hear you real clear. Let me do the intro because we're live. Let's see here. Dude. Let's 1 second. I can. There we go. All right, let's try that one more time because I'm like echoing and everything. All right. Good afternoon, lovely people, and welcome to Brown Skin, the clear and uncut conversations about us. Yes, my guest today is Amber, and we were talking prior to the show. So if you heard anything, that was us. Look, that was us conversing prior to, as usual, because that's what we do. All right. Amber, we're talking about today's topic is two-parent household. We're going to touch bases on that. Definitely, if you know me, we're going to touch bases on the hot topics. So make sure you guys tune in and put your comments below so we can understand what how you feel about this. We're going to talk about the transgender sports, that hot topic, dating online throughout the COVID and how that works with us brown skinned people, and the pickup on black and whites, where some people, I'll tell you a little snippet, where some people feel as though, actually more so than not, it's a compliment if you're picked up by a white guy more so than a black guy. So let's get this party started. You ready, Amber? Got to hit on. You got the mute on. Look, we just like, let me put the mute on. Look. I don't
want to mess with the intro again. So I was like, let me mute.
Hey, it's all good. That's because it's all good with Mel on ShopTalk, Brown Skin, all. That's me. I think I'm known for the bloopers. Look. Okay. Like since 2010, I used to be hanging up on people. I used to be like, oh, wait, hold on, trying to do the boards. Can't do all of it. All right, so let's start with the hot topics. Is that all right? All right. I like yours. We was talking to prior. All right, the transgender in sports. Do you feel as though it's a debate? It's been an ongoing debate from since it started, but these last 3 days it was like everywhere in social media, where it is transgender females who want to compete with females. What's your thoughts on that? And I want the listening audience too. Tell me what's your thoughts. Let's talk the real.
I think that in an effort to be fair, we've lost sight of truth and biology. And, biologically, women, we don't have as much physical strength as men do. And regardless of how they feel or how their perception of themselves or hormone supplements that they take, they have a natural physical advantage over biological women. So I don't think it's fair. And I think you're going to just see that more and more. I feel like you can respect people's preferences, respect people's wishes, respect the way people want to be identified, but also be fair and be, truthful.
Okay, so how do you suggest that we be fair? I can't remember where we talked about it a while back, not on Brown Skin, on ShopTalkwithmel, where there was the one transgender that won the race, running against females, and the transgender won, and not the one that was born. And like you said, it's the physical makeup. Men are a lot stronger, and even with the hormones, that they're taking. So, I don't think it's fair. Caitlyn Jenner said the same thing. It's not fair. But my question is, whose rights mean more or matter more?
I mean, I don't think it's about anyone's rights per se. I think that traditionally men and women had different sports. Women's sports were started because we are at a natural disadvantage. Like, that is factual. And I mean, if you look at world records for the Olympics, there's a huge disparity between world records held by women and world records held by men. And, and that's just, documented. So even with the introduction of, steroid use and PEDs and stuff like that, it's still this huge gap because we're starting off not on the same level. So when women take steroids, we'll be up here, but when men take steroids, they're already up here and they're up even higher. So there's always going to be an imbalance. And I don't think they should be competing with women.
Now, see, I say rights because that's why we had Title IX, just as you said. It was, men's sports, and no, women couldn't compete with men because there was a disparity,
Right.
So it's like, okay, what do you do? But now you have transgender, which you were born a male, you identify as a woman, and now you are running. So it's like, what do we do? Like,
well, I think it was not even just, it's not so much like they were born male and they were socialized as children as males. And so a lot of them still have the brain or the socializing of a man.
okay.
And I feel like there is a difference between transgender women and transgender men, because these people, most of them are still socialized in childhood as their assigned gender. So even if maybe internally they feel different, they are still placed in the position of a little boy or a little girl throughout their childhood. And so they're socialized, and their mindset and their social interactions is still based off of that childhood of their traditional gender, of their biological gender.
Well, now they're able to change their sex on their birth certificate.
Well, and I think that's really inappropriate. I think that's not right at all. I completely disagree with that. I think that, it's not my experience. But to me, it just seems like very elaborate dress up, because no matter how many surgeries you have, you're the gender you're born with. No matter what you do, you're going to have your chromosomes that you're assigned. No one has made a way for you to change your chromosomes.
Right.
And so if you have male chromosomes, you have male chromosomes. You have female chromosomes, you have female chromosomes. And that's just it. And that's unchanging. And like I said, even as far as the socialization aspect, and I feel like there's so much push from transgender females instead of transgender males, is because they're still operating in their masculine and male identified personality, character, or whatever. Because I feel like transgender males are a lot more quiet. They're just happy to be at the table.
Okay. I can respect that. Well, you know what my answer is, and I hate to sound, sound that way, but I got to keep it 100. I just think that when you're dealing with transgenders, first I was on the path of, okay, have transgender sports. They have the Special Olympics, you know what I mean? And they have their own sports, have transgender sports. But I think that they may run into the same issue that we're having the issue with, because if you do trans female, trans male, can they all run together, or do they separate theirs? Because I'm like, Donna Y'all got to check out my girl Donna. I don't know her, but Donna, what is it? De Verona. That's the one who lobbied for Title IX back in 72. She lobbied for that. Like, there is a significant difference and significant disparity in men and women's sports. Why are we integrating? You don't want to, keep them segregated, but I want to be careful with my words, but I got to keep it 100. Why are we integrating something that she's already fought for or lobbied for? Now, let me put this out there. Y'all might have some other people. It was other people that wrote the book. They wrote the book on Title IX. Let's talk about the person that actually lobbied for it. That's who Donna is. Okay. Because I know my people be trying to get me. I'm telling you, everybody be trying to get me. But I'm just let y'all know. You can do your own research. But I just feel like, what is the, why are we integrating that she's already segregated, even though we want integration, and that's what we're fighting for on the whole Black Lives Matter. But that's another show with the whole buy Black thing and all that other stuff. And that's good, support your own. But to me, that's another way of segregating.
Well, I'm a big believer in buying Black.
Yes, you want to support your own.
Especially if you're in supporting Black entrepreneurs, because the reality is self-segregation is natural. Human beings naturally self-segregate. And every other group of people, especially minority groups of people, one of the main reasons why they're able to achieve like economic and social stability, even though they're a minority group, is because they self-segregate and because they keep their dollars within their own community. So I definitely think it's really important. But as far as the transgenders go, I'm thinking of like intramural sports, where it's co-ed intramural sports. And why can't it just be something like that? I don't feel like it's an issue where you need to reinvent the wheel. And I don't feel like they have any kind of co-ed Olympic fields.
It's all separate.
I'm trying to think, because there's like Olympic like archery, there's like Olympic pool, there's like a lot of much smaller known sports that are a part of the Olympics. They don't get the attention that the track and field does, but it's still, and I feel like even those things are separated by gender, by sex. So I guess the issue is that transgenders can't compete on like the highest level of competition because those are all divided by sex. But then you have things like, co-ed intramural sports, and those are, they're small scale, but it's already there. So it's not like they can't play, they can't participate at all, but just not to the highest levels.
Okay. Well, let's get to why I invited you on the show. Let's talk about the importance of a two-family household.
Okay.
And two-parent household in our community.
Okay.
And the importance of it and the importance of it not being that important or successful. I'll put it that way.
Okay, they're not
being as successful as we want it to be, because some people look at it and they see where, I hear over and over, it drives me nuts, but I hear over and over, they came from a broken home. They came from a one-parent household, and this is why they are responding this way, when maybe that child was better off with the one parent than the two fighting together, bickering back and forth. But go ahead, you got the floor.
Okay, well, I just did a really quick Google search, and anyone can do it. It's, well-documented information. It's very well documented that a two-parent household is more stable economically and emotionally than a single-parent household. They're better because you have two people to generate twice as much income. So there's more money. And then you'll have an additional adult to have emotional and social support for the children as well as the adults. So the adults in the home, the parents have the opportunity to pool their income, their energy, and their time. So you're a part of a team. And there's all kinds
I
of
guess like, for the team effort, so you can be like, tag, you're in, I'm out. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Exactly.
I need a time out. So
Right.
you're in. Okay,
Right.
I can see that.
And so then also intact, and that's how they describe them, as intact families tend to be more stable. Even there's research that indicates the family structure does relate to preschool children's cognitive development skills. Kids are more likely to
I wonder how's that? I got to get comfortable. What's your thoughts?
I would think it's because they're observing the parents talk to each other, so it helps the preschoolers vocabulary and their ability. And I think in the article it cited like their ability to identify sight words or something.
Oh, okay, so communication.
Their communication skills. And then basically it wrapped up with a 2-parent home is not better than a single parent home, only if it's a high conflict relationship. And so basically, if you're in a partnership with another adult and you have children and it's a high conflict relationship, then it's better off being a single parent home. And I think the issue, and like I said, I feel like this should be well-known information that a 2-parent household is better than a single parent household. That's the side point. The main point is that why are there so many high conflict relationships in the Black community? Like that, because it's like common sense would tell you that it's better to be in a 2-parent household, a healthy 2-parent household, than it is to be singular, because it's more burden, you have less support, there's less resources. And then if you look into the statistics of it and the numbers and the income disparity, it's plain as day. It's inarguable. But then it's not better if you're in a 2-parent household that's high conflict. And a lot of Black people, from what I hear, they're out of 2-parent households because they were in high conflict relationships. So it's like, why is it always Black people coming together and it's high conflict? I think that's the issue. It's not that 2-parent.
You know why? I'll tell you why. Because people, and I'm using air quotes to the listening audience, society tends to think that it is better to have 2 parents in the household. Now, we know most of the conflict that do occur, the ones that I actually witness and see, one person is working, one person is not. And they're in the household. There's your 2-parent household. And then the stress level is like up here because one person is carrying the other person.
Exactly. Well, and that's one of literally the first thing listed as the benefits of being in a 2-parent household is 2 incomes.
So right. If you don't have that.
And traditionally women historically aren't bringing in the income. So it doesn't necessarily mean, okay, well, you're worthless because you don't have an income. Mm-hmm. But if it's like you said, if one person is carrying the relationship or carrying the household financially, then that's going to induce a lot of stress and anxiety and introduce a lot of conflict.
You know what's interesting? What's interesting is, yes, it will. But if it's the female who's not working or who don't have the income, who doesn't have the income at the time or unemployed, it seems to be okay. Those, and I do believe that those arguments still occur, but females have the tendency to stand down, where if a female is the breadwinner and is making the money, and they'll say the husband or significant other partner,
the male. Mm-hmm.
The partner doesn't have, the male, let me be specific, doesn't have the income, they can't take it. And I don't think women need to be putting guys down. In brown skinned women, I can only speak from as being a brown skinned woman, a woman. You can't talk to people crazy.
Okay. Yeah. Well, and like I said, I think that it tends to be more of an issue when the woman out earns the man, because that's against nature. you know what I'm saying, against our traditional socialization of, you know, the man bring home the bacon type of deal. And then I think as far as women not standing down and women being verbally abusive to men, that goes back to just like that high conflict and like people not really knowing how to operate in a relationship, not knowing how to communicate, not knowing how, not having no conflict resolution skills. You know, people in a relationship and they're quick to quit, you know, they're quick to quit on the relationship or quick to quit on each other. You know, that those are all indicators of like, you know, you don't have good relationship skills. And
Now
that's something that's internal, you know,
now,
like as an individual.
Now, see, we're moving, like we're in 2021 now.
Yes.
And I am one of those that are quick to quit. Because here's my thing. You see one red flag is usually a parade to follow.
Oh, well, no.
Where the drummers at? No, let me like, you know, hold on a minute. And, you know, the honor guard, they up there with the flags, you know. But here's the thing. When you see the one red flag and you're like, okay, I see that, that's okay. And usually you have, before quitters quit, I'm not a quitter, but I'll be like, I'm done. Like I threw in the towel. Ain't no sense in even fighting. Let me put it that way. I refuse to fight. I will leave before I fight. And so I'm out.
So do you mean having, okay, so.
Wait, no, I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna tie you back into it. So when you see how the situation is going and you have children and you're like, okay, so now we have children and I see this, or it could be a step parent and you're like, okay, well, I see you like to call off all the time. So I'm watching that. A call offer, that means that to me, that signs of irresponsibility. And will children see that? No, you don't want to argue in front of your children, but it's usually little things before that flame gets really, really high. It's little things that are sparking it.
Right. Oh, definitely. And I think that comes back to like communication, and it's important when you're in a relationship to tackle issues as they arise and not like bottle them up, you know what I'm saying? And just like not speak on it. But as far as red flags, I think when you're dating, you should run at the first sight of a red flag. Like that's probably good practice. But I feel like once children are involved, once you're married, you know, that's like closing the barn doors after the horse is done run out. Like you're already committed to each other. You've already made these babies, you know, try to work it out like that. You know, it's so important to me. I feel like dating is about data collection. Like you are supposed to be seeing if you're compatible with each other. But if you're walking on eggshells and ignoring the important issues, not addressing important topics, you're going to wait till you're 2, 3 years, 4 years in to be like, hey, we never really worked this out. We never addressed this. We never discussed this really important issue. And then it becomes a problem.
So what if they don't listen?
What if then, you know, that's one of those things where it's like, maybe you're not a good fit for each other, or they're just not where you're at. You know, sometimes you're just not on the same page with another person. Just like, I feel like on the issue, and this is like we can have a whole nother conversation about submission. You know what I'm saying? And I, you know, as a traditional person, conservative, I guess, whatever, I definitely believe like a wife should submit to her husband, but I feel like submission requires trust. And that's a prerequisite. So I think women have a very hard time submitting because they don't trust them. But it's like, if you ain't trust him and you're not willing to submit to him, you shouldn't have married him. You know what I'm saying? Like,
maybe they probably faked the funk. They probably faked the funk, and then somebody got tricked and bamboozled, because now, especially after, you know, last year, it's like, okay, we don't even know. Tomorrow's not promised. And then you hit a certain age, you know, and you're like, oh, I better hurry up and get married. You know what I'm saying? So people aren't collecting all the data that they need. So that could potentially be it. But I'm with you on the submission. And so you have to have trust. If you don't trust the person, trust that they will protect you, trust that they will provide for you.
Right.
Guess
then you
what?
can't submit. Then you can't submit. You're going to struggle to submit because you don't believe that they have your best interest at heart. And I think that's something men don't want to acknowledge or address, is that women don't like to submit because they don't trust you, because you're not showing your leadership skills. You're not demonstrating that you're going to be there for her. You know, if anything, most men are illustrating that they're wishy-washy, they're inconsistent, they're in and out, and then they want submission, and they don't even want to offer any commitment. You just supposed to submit because of their genitalia.
Not, which is nutty. Tell me this. Speaking of submit, then we're going to go back to co-parenting. Co-parenting, being single, but co-parenting, you know,
okay,
a good co-parenting skills and how that can actually work. Speaking of submission, I read like you, you know, we're reading and looking around like, hey, what's going on? Where there are a lot of men that will not, I'm using air quotes again, in our community, hold you down or hold their woman down.
Okay, so are you referring to the Mendices and
yes, and the Yandy?
Okay.
Yes.
So, you know, it was.
I loved his honesty, though. I loved his honesty.
Because he wasn't honesty, because he backpedaled, which is classic narcissist gaslighting BS.
Okay.
He said what he said, and everyone interpreted it exactly the way he intended for it to be interpreted, and then he later on posted on social media trying to backpedal it, trying to ease off of it. And really, you know, I'd rather focus on Yandy. No, it's such a humbling experience, and I can feel her heartbreak. You know, I'm a very empathetic person. And it's probably something, and she had mentioned that, I don't even watch the show. I've just seen clips here and there on different platforms, but how it was something she had struggled with for years while he was incarcerated. And
why did she stay?
Well, I think she was lying to herself. And women do that.
And she had her the children. See, that's what
right.
I'm talking about.
And then so other people had mentioned that they don't feel sorry for Yandy because she had threw his other baby's mothers under the bus when they first got together and dismissed their complaints and concerns about him being trifling.
And now here's the thing. I'm not mad about her doing that, because one thing that you cannot do, especially for me, and I'm speaking to me personally, if I'm with someone, I'm with him. I'm not going to listen to what happened to you because you are a different person. They may treat me differently than they treated you. I have been in situations where people have dated me and other women have been there waiting and wanting the treatment that I received, but did not receive that treatment because you are different. So I wasn't mad at her on that. That was more so some envious type stuff with the girls, and they're upset. Okay, aha, now. No, I want to stay focused on exactly what he said. And one thing I learned about men is listen to what they say. We hear what we want to hear, but not what they say. Like we hear wedding, we'll hear, I want to marry you. Okay, that's all they said. We got the date, we got the picket fence, we got the 2 children, we got the dog, we got the dress, we got all of that. That is not it. And also, ladies, let me put this out here. If he say, oh, do you want, or a woman will say, oh, I want to get married, or he'll say, oh, you want to be married? Well, what's the question that we ask? So do you plan on getting married one day? They may say yes, but that don't mean it's to you. Hear exactly what they say. And when Mendici said no, he wouldn't have held her down. He didn't
say no. He said, I don't know what I would do. And just the fact that he's talking about, I don't know what I would do.
What word is in there? Wait. What word did you hear? Did you hear a yes or no?
No, that's right.
That's it. That's it. I don't know means no.
Right. That's right. And I think, you know, and like, you know, right. No, that's exactly what he said. I feel like that's the way I took it. And yeah, as far as Yandy, I feel like, you know, it was just one of those moments where her intuition, her gut was telling her what the truth was, and she wasn't ready to it. Huh?
Why would she even ask him? Clearly she had doubt.
She been had doubt. And it's just like, you're not making yourself look good as a woman. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what time it is, and you knew what, and inside you knew what the answer already was, which is that he wouldn't have been there for you. And so I don't know if maybe she was just trying to get like some morality points or whatever.
Or probably show me that I'm different.
I think she was
different from the others. Show me my clout. Show me that I mean more to you than the others. Almost like a wife. Let's be real. Almost
well,
like
they had a fake wedding, and I thought that was shameful.
Yeah, that was nuts.
Shameful.
Yeah, it really was.
You know, what was a fake wedding? Like, what? But that's just me.
Right.
You know,
Who does that?
Because
so it was fake? It really was fake? They found out that it really was fake?
It's like they are not legally married.
That's a hot mess.
I think it's a hot mess. And I think it goes back to Black women's desperation and a focus on imagery and appearances, because marriage, you know what I'm saying? Marriage is about resources, it's about wealth, it's about building. You're not legally married, that there's nothing to talk about. You know what I'm saying? Then you're dating still, and you had a whole big old wedding. For what? For what purpose? And then we could just get into the spiritual weddings. So how's he supposed to be her spiritual husband? And he's talking about he wouldn't hold her down if she got incarcerated. He's not your spiritual husband. He's not your legal husband. And don't be surprised if they break up pretty soon anyway. Like, it's just
I'd have been out. I would have been out. I'd be like, okay, maybe we'll pick up when you come out, but I'm not going to jail. I didn't do that. I'm not doing time with you.
And beyond that, beyond her choosing to stay with him while he's incarcerated, she's sitting here fighting police brutality and getting pepper sprayed in the face over his butt. Like, and that's the energy that he reciprocates. I can understand if neither one of them had never been incarcerated, and it's a completely hypothetical question, but he's been incarcerated and she already done held him down. And even after she done held him down, he's still talking about something, I'm not sure. That's a trifling, weak, spineless man of no integrity. The only thing I could give him is that he was honest.
He was honest, and I respect it.
That's all I can respect is his honesty, but that's not a good man. That you're gonna sit here and tell a woman who already done held you down that you don't know if you could give the same energy to her.
Okay,
like, trifling.
Speaking on that, how many Black men said that they would not die for their wife?
I mean, I would think a lot of them.
A whole lot. Did you see the one that said he wouldn't die for his child?
Well, exactly, and that's it. And so this idea of
his daughter, who will be a woman,
right? Well, I mean, and I think that, and then so like people, that guy was in a gang, because I think
let's rewind. I'll let you set it up and explain to the listening audience that probably have no idea what we're talking about. Go ahead.
So there is a recent case in Chicago where a little Black girl was killed in a McDonald's drive-through by a drive-by shooting. Turns out the girl's father is a part of a gang, and the shooters were a rival gang, and they shot up the car, and it was retaliation because the little girl's father went and urinated on one of the rival gang's grave, apparently, allegedly.
There you go.
And so that's what precipitated the drive-by shooting where this little Black girl was killed. Now, the father was being interviewed by the media and was discussing it or whatever, saying he was broken up or whatever. And then, people did their online research, and he had posted a video to social media, a public video, where he blatantly stated that he would not die for his daughter, but he would die for his dudes, for his friends, for his gang member friends or whatever. And apparently this is not the only child that he's lost. So so that's the setup of it. And
where's the loyalty?
no, there is no loyalty.
The
with
loyalty
them.
is to his dudes.
Well, and it's, and then you could really get into like the homoerotic nature of gangs and a lot of like hip hop and rap music. There's really strong homoerotic undertones, which has been pushed on the Black community, particularly Black males, to cause more division between Black men and Black women. But I think there's definitely some really strong homoerotic undertones and now it's just becoming blatant. And the other thing I wanted to point out, which was something that was discussed, was during his media press conference or whatever after this shooting, the mother of this Black daughter, this Black child, was supporting him. This Black man was being held up by two Black women. And I think, if we're focusing on Black women, I think that mentality is something that really needs to be addressed. Like, how are you going to support a man whose own choices and behavior is the reason why this child is dead? The reason why your child that you birthed is dead. And I think that's because a lot of Black women prioritize men over their kids. Because if it had been me, I would never been with, a trifling man like that. But B, I wouldn't have wanted nothing to do with him. Because how can you not see that his gang lifestyle and the choices that he's made in his life resulted in his child being dead?
The men we choose next week on Brown Skin. Because it needs to be addressed. And his mother, how is his mother holding him up? I feel like his mother should have smacked him upside his head. You know what I'm saying? Like, but it's a cycle, it's a pattern, a lack of accountability, where it just happened. No, it didn't. That didn't just happen to you. When you say, right, it didn't. When you say submission and how it's important to be submissive to our
marriage.
Yeah,
in marriage,
not to your boyfriend, girls,
but not your husband, not to your man, because and that's the other thing. When Black women always referring to Black men as our men, they're not our men. They are men. They're just males. Most of them are males. Some of them are men. A few of them are men. We don't know. We got to figure it out who's men and who's just a male. But
men and mice and men.
But no, I don't know. I believe in submission to your husband. Your husband, that not just somebody that has, a phallus.
Okay.
But your husband and not your boyfriend. The Bible doesn't, I haven't read no verses about boyfriends and girlfriend relationships in the Bible. Okay. God don't recognize that. Sorry.
And you know what? It's nuts because a lot of us will be submissive. I guess, are we like, and I say we because I am a Black female. Are we practicing, hoping that they see wife material? And that,
go ahead. I agree. I think that's what it is. And I feel like dating is supposed to be a stepping stone. You know what I'm saying? Where you're feeling each other out, where you're, like a dry run. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think there's anything wrong with that personally. I think for me, the issue is when your dry run turns into a long run. You're not stepping.
You could be 60 years old and be like, well, might as well marry him now. Right. Right. And seeing that, to me, honestly, like the situation with Mendeezy, okay, yeah, he went to jail and she held him down all that time. But that's the same. I feel the same way that you're with this guy. So do you keep dating him until he gets it right? He's cheating on you the whole time. Yeah, well, I'm the woman. Okay, but you're not the wife.
Yeah. I think the issue is that women are hesitant to have standards in dating. And
do you think it's because of the biological clock, and for those who don't have children, and for those who feel as though like, okay, well, I need to hurry up and get married, so I might as well marry him, and realizing that you're marrying the same person you've been with that cheated on you for the last 10 years. So when he's still doing the same exact thing, why are you surprised?
Right. And I think it's not even surprise. I think that people, first of all, nobody's perfect. We all have shortcomings. And you're marrying the same person. I think that definitely the dynamic of your relationship will change because you're married and you're legal and it's official and it's real. That's going to impact your relationship, but the two people within that relationship are the same. This something that I've noticed that is killing me right now is that a lot of men will, you know, I won't even say that they did it, but relationships will fall apart after children are introduced. Well, you know, our relationship changed after the kids, or she changed. Duh. Of course your relationship's going to change. Children, that's a whole paradigm shift. That's a paradigm shift in your relationship. So you're sitting here thinking things are going to be the way they were before she got pregnant. And it's just like, are you slow?
But you know what though? So like you said, it's like letting the horses out before you close the barn doors. I can say with my first marriage, once you get married and then you have the children, and the children we've carried them, we've nurtured them, we've had 9 months prior to them with our children. So they become the priority. But here's the issue for my wives out there: when you are having a child with your husband, you have to remember to be a wife. What happened in mine, and I don't have a problem with sharing it, is I stopped becoming a wife and became a parent. And that was the downfall. Mm-hmm.
And I think that even if like,
we got to do both of them, and you got to work, and then you got to come home and cook.
But yeah, I'm not for that. I'm not for working mothers. I'm not for that. I mean, personally, that
talk to us. Talk to us.
I struggle working with one child, and if a man wants me to have multiple children, then I'm not working, because running a household and it's a full-time job, especially when you have small children, and that's burnout. And when a woman's burnt out, she's not going to take care of herself physically, mentally, spiritually, sexually, just all.
She's going to be real tired.
And then she's going to get off that bitter, I'm exhausted, I'm stressed energy, and that's going to negatively impact your relationship.
Follow up with peace.
Right. Or, he's going to be like, oh, she's bitter, she's angry all the time, she's agitated, probably because she's overstressed and she's overworked. I just know for me personally, and the communication will go down. And I think that, just from what I understand from biblical teaching, is that your husband, your spouse, is supposed to be with you for the rest of your life. Your children, you're supposed to consecrate them back to God. So they're no longer your children. You're just their steward, their earthly steward. But Father God in heaven is their parent, right? And you're just taking care of them. You're guiding them. You're preparing them to go out into the world. So eventually, the plan is your children are supposed to leave you. Your spouse is not. Your children are temporary. Your spouse is supposed to be a permanent fixture in your life. So especially as women, when you start to flip that, like, no, my kids are going to be there forever, then don't be surprised when your spouse leaves, because your spouse is supposed to be permanent. It's supposed to be till death. Your kids are just until they're grown. And your job as a parent is to prepare them, to send them out, to push them out of the nest. Mm-hmm. So your kids are never supposed to be with you for the rest of your life, in no way. So how are you going to put them over your spouse? And not only that, when you prioritize your spouse and you prioritize your marriage, the health of your marriage, your kids see that and they're positively impacted that, and you're demonstrating what a healthy relationship looks like to your children, and you're providing a healthier home. If you're just paying attention to your kids and bills and just doing what you got to do, but your marriage is falling apart, that's what you're demonstrating to your kids. A dysfunctional relationship. That's what you're illustrating to them.
Okay. Here's a popular question. Dinner is prepared. You have your children and you have your husband. Who do you serve first?
Your husband.
Well, guess what? Back and forth. People, will go. Some say children, some say husband. I'm with you, your husband. But if you demonstrate that, if you demonstrate that in front of your children, like you said, you're teaching them because they're going to get up and get out and they're going to say, okay, if I have children, I need to feed my children first, instead of so the breakdown of the family dynamics is from childhood.
Oh, for sure.
Instead
and
of, serving their husband or their spouse first.
Right. It's in the Black community, it's generational. So you have so many people that are coming from 2, 3, 4 single parent households in a row. So you don't have the point of reference of like, oh, well, back in my day, we did it this way or that way. Your mom's single, your grandma was single, your great grandma was single, or all had dysfunctional relationships, so that you don't have any healthy relationships to emulate. And even then, that's especially now with the internet, that's not an excuse. And especially as a woman my age, when you're out dating, you're like, oh, I had a rough childhood and nobody ever taught me to go learn. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna start cussing. That's what I'm gonna do. But you know what I'm saying? That's not an excuse. You have to, at what point in your life can you stop blaming your childhood and the shortcomings and failures of your parents and say, okay, you know what, that happened to me, but I'm an adult, I'm independent, I get to choose my life, I have to make choices for myself, and maybe nobody taught me this, but I'm gonna learn it for myself, or I'm gonna go find a mentor and ask them to teach me X, Y, Z. And I think that goes back to just personal accountability, instead of making excuses.
Absolutely. Now, when you deal with co-parenting, not in a relationship, but you have two parents, they decide, okay, we split, but we'll co-parent. Those little people are looking. So one thing they'll learn is how to co-parent when they become older. What's your thoughts on co-parenting?
So that was
after a toxic relationship.
It's good if it's healthy co-parenting. And I feel like you can always find the silver lining in pretty much any situation.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still not healthy. Co-parenting is still not as good of an example as a healthy relationship. You know what I'm saying? If you can be an example of this is how you healthily co-parent, that's good. But hopefully you won't get to that point, because you're gonna have the skills to be able to resolve conflicts and pick a good partner to join yourself with and stay joined with to raise your children in. I feel like a big part of healthy co-parenting is just being at peace and accepting that person the way they is, accepting what they do and what they don't do. And that's a great skill to have in all aspects of life. But you're not demonstrating what a healthy relationship looks like to your children. You're teaching your children how to deal with people that you're not compatible with. That's what healthy co-parenting is. And it's a good skill to have, but that's not demonstrating a healthy relationship.
It's a good skill to have in life.
Yes, definitely. It's a great skill to have, but that's not the same thing as illustrating this is what a healthy relationship looks like. This is how you operate. This is the treatment you give your partner, and this is the treatment your partner should give you.
Okay, so we know that in our culture, if a female says on the first date that she wants to get married, our men usually run.
I don't want to speak on it, but
pump the brakes, hold on, slow down.
I think that not just Black men, but all men, they're more hesitant to get married because several factors. I just think when you look at the statistics of it, Black men are unlikely to get married. Like, that's factual. Mm-hmm. And if like I said, having standards in dating, maintaining your standards, like if that's the way a guy feels, it's of no benefit to that woman to wait 3 months, to wait 6 months, to
pop the question.
To pop the question. To
ask
exactly, to bring it up, because guess what? More than likely, you're not going to change his mind. You know what I'm saying? If there's a change in his mind or his perspective on marriage, that's from within him, and that's his own experience, and that's on him. You know, so that's idea that, well, you should wait, like, for what? Especially if you're a mature woman. We ain't got time to wait, okay? Like, tomorrow is not promised. Like, what? You know what I'm saying? Like, no, I just think, you know, and then this is the issue men have. Men, because they're, you know, men don't like to be honest about what they want, which is, you know, maybe they just want something casual. Maybe they have a negative perception of marriage. Maybe they don't want to have a commitment. And I honestly think a lot of men want to have kids out of wedlock. They want to have babies. They want to have kids. Ain't no way there's that many accidents. You know what I'm saying?
I think they just don't like strapping up.
Well, that's part of it too, but it's just like, how are you, if that's what you like and you're willing to take a risk, then take the risk, but how are you going to sit here and complain about child support? It's like, you want, and I'm just talking to somebody about this, prior to the
what about this? Or what about this? And I want you to get your point across. Okay, after you get pregnant, what you want to do?
Well, because that's up to the woman. And a lot of
but I mean, what you want to do? Why are we asking this question when you know you could have strapped up and we wouldn't even be in this situation? But go ahead, what's your point?
I completely agree with you. I definitely agree with, you know, but I was mentioning to someone, explaining it, the mentality, like, prior to the sexual revolution and women's sexual liberation in this country, men did not have sexual access to women without commitment. You can go to other countries, more traditional countries, and it's still that way today. You're not going to be able to just go run down some female in a nightclub and have sex with her the same night, or after talking, you know, booing her up for a couple months. In those cultures, and even way back in American culture, if a man wants to have sexual access to a woman, he'd have to commit to her. He'd have to get permission from her father or whatever elder male who was in control of her, in order to do that. So then you have the sexual revolution. Now men can have sex with women without any kind of commitment.
Because we allow it.
Right. And so then all these babies get made that you don't want to pay for, and then you're mad about paying child support. It's like, which is it? Either you're going to have free sexual access to women, and if you create a child, you're going to have to pay for that child, or we can go backwards, where, you know, you can't even do that. You can't even have sex with a woman outside of a prostitute, and without committing to her first.
I think, well, listen, even the prostitutes get a commitment because they want their money.
Right, exactly. You know what I'm saying? Because sex isn't free.
Right.
Sex isn't free. So then you have you create a child, and then on top of that, with the mass production of condoms and contraceptives, there really is no excuse for a man to create a child that he doesn't want. And a lot of men, particularly Black men, have children that they genuinely didn't want, didn't plan for. And if the woman said, I'm going to have an abortion, they'd be like, cool. Okay.
Absolutely.
And then, you know, 5 years down the road, I gotta pay child support. You know, it's a lack of accountability.
Okay.
Because there's no excuse. There's no excuse.
Now let's talk about these women, and these are women, older women, who are putting sex out there, telling these guys that it's free. You post these booty pics, you with lingerie on. I mean, like, and here's my thing. Okay, that's like personal. You want the world to see you? Like, this is the way that, like, who, and I'm not going to say who does that, because there's a lot of people that do it. I see it, and I'm looking like, sis, why are you in lingerie on social media?
Well, it's a thirst trap. It's attention-seeking behavior, and honestly, that is the behavior and the mentality of like a low-quality woman.
And that's how I feel. But listen to this: you have women who send pictures, send inboxes, videos of themselves women. These are grown, not the young 20-year-olds or whatever. That's what they're doing. They're getting the BBLs, the Brazilian butt lifts, and transferring the fat from their stomach today, but not them. These are over 40. Just imagine. And like you said, way back. And for the fellas out there, what you see in these women who are doing it, just think like, dang, if we had social media, would my mother have been doing that? Because these are parents, you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, people have talked about that because celebrities do the same thing.
What, sending coochie videos?
But just being like dressed provocatively or whatever, or doing things that are questionable. And then your children seeing it. But I think as far as like social media specifically, it's about attention seeking. It's about seeking attention and validation. And then I think some women, just like some men, are just more sexually liberated or loose, and that's okay with them. And
listen,
it's their body, and they can do whatever they want.
They can do what they want, but then back in the day, they made videos, like sex videos, like you got paid to do a porn. Like now,
and that's what the whole thing with OnlyFans. It started out as pornography where you're getting paid for it, and there's fewer middlemen, and then celebrities got it and kind of pushed out these smaller aspiring amateur porn stars or whatever. And prostitution is the oldest occupation for women.
Absolutely.
If a woman's not educated,
I'm not promoting it, but why you doing it for free?
Right. And so the idea of women in prostitution is that there's just really nothing new under the sun. And desperate times calls for desperate measures. And if a woman feels or believes that is her best choice option to make money and to survive, that's her choice and that's her business. But when you're not even getting paid for it, then yeah, I think it's more like psychological. It's attention seeking, it's validation. It could be acting out, like maybe because they were married, maybe because they were molested, maybe because what have you. Now they're acting out, even though they're older. So, you don't know anybody's story or whatever, but when I see stuff like that, it's just, to me, says some psychological issues. Okay. Like there's some issues there.
I can rock with that. I'm thinking, yeah, it's attention, but here's where I agree with the attention. And no, we don't know everyone's story, but here's the $1 million question. You want him to respect you after you disrespected yourself. And it's like, well, he won't respect me. The $1 million question is, how did you present yourself? How did you introduce yourself? You know what I mean? Like if if this is our first meeting, what do they say? Our first impressions are lasting. So if I send a nude and that's the first impression that they get, and all they talk about on a date is sex, I cannot get offended. Just like these women who out here with your lingerie. And if all he talks about is sex and you get offended, well, that's what you presented. How you dress is how you'll be addressed.
Agree. I completely agree with that. I think it's a lesson that women have to learn, and I think it's endemic of a lot of Black women not having father figures. Because I think father figures are important. They do instill a sense of value as a woman. Like little girls need fathers and little boys need fathers, and one of the main things little girls need fathers for is to help mold them as women and to help them set standards and expectations of this is what you expect from a man. This is how a man is supposed to treat you. And this is how you should carry yourself around men. And this is how men act sometimes. And, be that guide for that little girl so that she has a strong sense of self and has appropriate standards in her own relationships. But I completely agree. But it's one of those things where you can overcome that if you stop and reflect on yourself and say, okay, well, how did I contribute to this situation? What did I do what could I have done differently to get a different outcome or get the desired outcome, that I wanted.
Mhm.
And I think there are a lot of women who don't especially young women that don't understand, like, okay, if you introduce sex, that's going to change his perspective of you. But then also on the flip side, I feel like, women, we have our own sexual desires. Like we're also sexual creatures. It's not like I don't like when sex gets into this area of it's all about the man and controlling his urges or stimulating his well, shit, what about my urges? What about my needs? And I feel like sometimes that's really all it is. You know what I'm saying? I actually had read somewhere that the reason why men and women approach sex differently on a fundamental level is because women, we have sex with who we want to.
Mhm.
We're always blocking approaches by men for sex, whereas men have sex with who they can, and they're always
I read that too.
right.
Whoever gonna give it to me, and then
exactly, and
then she's upset when she found out that he done slept with the world, and she thought she was special.
Right, and then that's because men and women fundamentally approach sex differently. So that's why a lot of women are like blindsided and surprised because, like, no, I had sex with you because I wanted to.
Mhm.
I wanted to have sex with you, and a guy is like, well, you just let me because I'm just
I appreciate you, thank you.
So, and I think that's one of those, is just like a learning curve. But I do think that, a lot of what I think women, that's how that's how we're socialized. Women have sex with men unless they're raped or something unfortunate. Women have sex with men that they want to have sex with, and it's really that simple.
It surely is. Look, I'm like, it surely is. And if you don't, no, I don't care. Look, that's why women or husbands will say, well, you don't have sex with me, so I'm gonna find it wherever I can get it. Okay. But here's a question that the husbands should be asking to me. Why don't you want to have sex with me?
Yes.
Usually women are the ones that is like, well, he don't sleep with me. Why doesn't he want to sleep with me? Because of that I've read as well. They have sex with who they can. And all of a sudden your man is not having sex with you. Guess what? Light bulb goes off. Who is he having sex with? Who's, and it, I'm just keeping it 100. It does. Light bulb goes off like, okay. And I would think that female need to be saying, well, he's not having sex with me. Who's he having sex with? And I'm having sex with him because I want to.
Mm-hmm.
And even in marriages, it's the same way, because you want to. You get an attitude of some women like to hold sex as a
punishment.
Right.
And I mean, again, and
you can be mad at him and still have sex with him.
Oh, of course. And I mean, honestly, makeup sex is great. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, that it's unproductive. Like, that's one vehicle to do something by withholding sex. But you also but men like to withhold affection. Like, and whenever you're withholding in your partnership as a means of punishment, that's unproductive. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is counterproductive to actually getting past whatever the conflict is and like getting to a true, authentic resolution. So withholding sex isn't going to make it better. Withholding your affection is not going to make it better. So it's not helping.
Okay, we have a viewer. Let me go to the viewer. Shimmy says, always remember that regardless of what you do or don't do as a woman, a male will hopefully respect a woman who respects themselves, but a man will respect her even if she is not respecting herself. Okay. That was from a guy. Okay. He said he's still, some men will still respect her even if she isn't respecting herself. He sees the gem then. That's it.
Yeah, he sounds like a great guy. I think that if you can keep your humanity and have compassion for people, even though, as a woman, you could be like, well, if he's not doing this and if he doesn't do that, I'm saying, that he's a piece of shit, but maybe, okay, and I think women tend to have more compassion, like, well, he's been through a lot, or he's had a bad day, or blah, 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 blah. And I think that hopefully men will have the same things, like, okay, well, she's wilding out, she's tripping, she's off the chain, but, I don't know her history. I don't know what she's been through. I don't know like how her day was or whatever, and try to exercise having compassion for people, even when they're not in their best form.
Okay, let's tackle this. Women, I'm trying to figure out how I want to word it. Okay, body counts.
Okay.
So you have women who will ask, did you do this to her? What did y'all do? And ask all the sexual details of what that guy may have done in a previous relationship. Women are guilty of that. I know some.
Well,
where guys, I have not, and most of my friends are guys. I've always kicked it. I always got along better with guys. Guys don't ask those questions. Like she asked her, well, who did you have oral with? Did you do this to her? Did you do that? Where a guy won't go ask, listen, did you suck his, you know what I mean? They just like, okay, I'm just dating the person. And what brought me to that is from the viewer, his comment and saying that he would still respect her.
Well,
you giving it, a fair chance.
Okay, well, I think that if you just look on a celebrity level of, Black men, Black men will most definitely turn a hoe into a housewife. So I think that's very true. Just in
a whole bunch of guys did.
Okay, so yeah, no, a woman respecting herself don't seem to matter, and it's irrelevant. As far as body counts and stuff, I've read that if a guy asks you what your body count is, it's because he's not serious about you. Whereas if he's really into you, it doesn't matter.
We don't get some guys on here, Amber. We gotta get some guys, but come on, fellas, go to speak up. We don't get some guys on here next time.
And I couldn't see myself doing that, and I couldn't see another woman doing that unless it was like he cheated with her or something. But if it's like you want to know what they all did in a previous relationship and it had nothing to do with you, it was before y'all even started talking.
Like you just dropped from heaven today and you 42. Like with no history. I'm gonna need you to get to practicing, okay? That's just me.
I think if you're just having an open conversation, I'm a big believer in communicating about sex and like having open communication. And I feel like that's how sex gets better, is by communicating. So if you're just trying to get a feel of what their experience level is or what their comfort level is, like if you're like getting into like BDSM or something like that, then that's okay. You know what I'm saying? Like you're just trying to learn the person. But if it's like
BDSM for the listening audience, for our listeners, what is?
So I'm not the one to speak on that.
No. Just say what is it? Just what is it?
So I would just say it's unconventional sexual activity.
There you go. Okay, that's good.
So that's unconventional sexual activity. And I think that because a lot of guys like to introduce sex very early into a relationship, I feel like that's a topic that's usually broached by men. You know what I'm saying? And I, personally, I think it's like low class and, tawdry and all that. But I feel like men are more likely to be like, you ask those sorts of questions as far as your experience or your comfort level. And I feel like that would be the only reason for a woman to try to get details about his sexual history. And I feel like it's none of your business for both parties, and really just comes down to if, they're healthy, if they're tested. And I feel like that's very reasonable, but that has nothing to do with positions, different types of.
Yes, if you're tested. I was out last week. Why did this guy show me his card? Girl, it was the COVID vaccine. I'm gonna need you to have the vaccination card. I got my shots. Sir, what's your status? How about that? How do I walk around with that?
I mean, I think
when you said that, it just brought that back to me. I was like,
right. Yeah, I think that's, to me, that's kind of weird. just because there's a lot of people who are on the fence about the vaccine. So you taking the vaccine don't necessarily mean that that's a great thing.
But are you trying to date me? So you're going to show me that you've been vaxxed? Sir, what's your status? Like, are you healthy? HIV type healthy? Like,
or, you know, uncurable.
Right.
Uncurables, you know, not just HIV, but any of the uncurables. Yeah.
When should a guy, since we talked about, you know, a girl saying, okay, I want to get married, when should she introduce that question? When should a guy introduce the sex question? He should not ask that question on the first date?
If it's important to him,
2021.
It's about being truthful to yourself. And if you're a male whose sex is very important to you, you might as well be honest about that. If you know you're in a space where you're non-committal, or that you know, be honest and be consistent. Because I think a lot of women get tripped up when guys start like speaking out, like start giving you mixed signals. It's like, well, last week you were saying this, now this week you're saying that, and then next week you're saying something different. That's confusion. And to me, confusion's not of God. And I find a confused man unattractive.
You can't make decisions.
Right, exactly. So whatever you feeling, whatever you need, whatever your boundaries are, whatever you're looking for, just be honest and upfront about it and be consistent.
So if a guy, say you went out and it's the first date and dating is collecting data.
Some people, right? I mean, some people, like, you know, and there's a lot of women who get shamed for, you know, trying to collect data. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know why.
Well, it's guys. Mm-hmm.
You know, is this an interview? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's an interview. But so if it's about that, I don't see anything wrong with a guy if that's what's important to him. And you ask those questions, ask him on the first date.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I've had guys ask me, and I'll answer honestly, like frequency and things like that. Like, if y'all are not compatible, to me, sex is very important. If y'all are not compatible on a sexual level, for me personally, and I think for a lot of women, that's a huge problem. It's a huge problem for a lot of men too. Being compatible in the bedroom is important. You know, it's not like, oh, how dare you? Like, of course, well, I have a vagina, so it's going to be good. Like, no, that's not how it works. So again, be honest about that, you know. But I think everyone has different needs and preferences and priorities. And that's okay. And that's why you're going on a date, to get to know each other. You know, and eventually you'll find your tribe. You'll find someone who fits nicely, you know.
No pun intended, huh? Hey, Amber, wait, I gotta ask this question before we end the show, okay? And I don't know if you probably read it. No, you probably saw it too, knowing you, because we both be out there looking around. Did you see where it was said that being hit on by, you felt you held your head higher if you were hit on by a white male versus a black male? Did you see that, where the women were talking about that? Where they felt as though that they
they were on social media, and it was a private conversation that was
yes.
like,
yes.
Well, those were white women, and I'm not a white woman, so I can't.
But
really
as a black
woman, so there's a clear disparity in wealth, resources, and power from black men and white men, and that's just factual. And women, for the most part, are attracted to like wealth and means.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so I think pretty much most women will be more flattered if a man who has wealth, who has power, who has influence, who has resources is hitting on them than a man that has less resources.
Still professional though. Let's take it. Let me do this instead of Boomerang. Did you see Boomerang?
No.
What? That's an old movie too. I was trying to think with Eddie Murphy. Okay, I got where you're going. I got where you're going. Where most women will feel that way. Yes, white women felt,
But you know what? And I think most people, and this is outside, you know, and different from our community, most people are attracted to their own kind.
Yeah, most
people, most Asian people are attracted to Asian people. Most white people are attracted to white people. You know what I'm saying? So I think that makes sense.
Okay, with that being said, I would, if it was a little short, little Asian person, I would say, and I'm not discriminating, I guess that probably sound like, why they gotta be short? There is a tall one. I had a doctor that was like really tall, okay? But if they tried to talk to me, because most are more attracted to their own, I would feel like, okay, then, man, you doing it.
Yes.
And the Asian guy that tried to talk to you, okay, boom.
Right.
Yeah. So I would feel, so I kind of related a little bit to that. Not that I was shunning my own. You know what I mean? But I kind of related to that. And not even with, you know, the wealth thing, as you stated, I didn't even go that deep. I just sat there, was like, if somebody from another race, as in, you know, you have your own, and so you're like, okay, well, I'm used to it. You know, you're used to being hit on. But if somebody from a different race hit on me, I'll be like, oh, you paying me some attention, okay?
Right. No, I agree with that. I totally agree with that. But also, and I think those three white women, the main focus of the reason why it wasn't attractive is because of the psychology behind it. And they understood why these Black guys were hitting on them out of like desperation, low self-esteem, things like that. And then operating in those dynamics as being really effeminate and being easily manipulated and easily controlled, which is not appealing to most women.
You ain't lying. So some of the stuff I'll be like, I would never. But somebody submissive to, everybody has somebody that they'll be submissive to. So somebody is submissive to that person. And I think it's all about how you vibe, the connection. And even without, you know how they say your soulmate, you know, even without the whole sex thing and being compatible. I know women who are submissive to men that they're not even dating. And here's the thing, not the actual act of submissiveness, but just respect, a level of respect, you know, and it's not even knowing that individual. Like, how do I trust this person across there? But I trust that person more than I trust the person that's next to me, that I'm like, oh, move, go. But this person can come in the room, command the room, and I'm submissive to this person that I don't even know.
Well, I think it's energy. It's the energy. Like you said, it's not really like an act of submission. It's an energy of deference. Like, I'm gonna let it ride. I'm just gonna, do what you say because you're really adamant about it or whatever. And I feel like it's good for women to really take a moment. And if they're in that energy, well, why are you behaving like that? Like, what is making you not want to be submissive? Because it's something, right? And it may be because
it could be just like you were saying. You were was saying about the like the income not being in there, her having to take on that male role. But I'm gonna go to viewer real quick, and then we're gonna wrap it up. Okay. Guy says, I'm hit on by women of all races, but I love it more when it comes from a Black woman.
But what's his race?
Black.
Oh, okay.
Black. Probably they always say that we are the roughest and the hardest. So, like,
how many Black women are put in masculine energy due to circumstance?
Well, what if you have that shy woman who is not assertive or aggressive, I'll put it that way. Because, when as thirsty, because, like, guys always in the inbox, but that's what single men do. They're in your inbox. That's what you want, lady. You know what I mean? Where now the women are in the inboxes, just like the viewer, hit on by everybody, so can you really, is there a change? Because we are women of all races, women are becoming more aggressive. Do they not want that? And when you say, you know, us, because that's what they say.
I'd also like to point out American women, because there's women, there's huge push for particularly Black men who are like, no, I'm gonna get me a foreign woman. They're submissive, they're docile, they're traditional, they're more traditional women. And
they don't know you don't got no sense.
I think a traditional woman, the issue with a traditional woman is that they're going to want a traditional man. They're going to want, their expectation is that you're going to be a traditional man. You're going to be the provider. She's not going to be working. Don't sit here and ask her to pop out and 3 babies and then work 40 hours a week, because that submissive traditional woman ain't for that, because that's not even how she was raised.
So that's like the mail-in brides. That's what they do. But why don't you want to take care of American woman, and why does she have to go to work? So you got a point. Listen. Like, we can go on and on and on and on. Thanks for tuning in to Brown Skin. We kind of went over a little bit. I love you guys for listening on every Monday. Brown Skin, the clear and uncut conversations about us, 4 p.m. on Mondays. Your favorite podcast, Brown Skinned, okay? And also on your favorite podcast, listen to Let's Shop Talk, all right? Find you, embrace you, most importantly, always, always love you. Until next week, people, Brown Skin. Thank you so much, Amber, for coming on. We gotta